for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Okay, this is 1 minute.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains.
Nope, you already.
Majesty.
Good morning. We will, it's 9:02, and we will call the Tuesday, April 17th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Equalization order. But first, I'd like to note that there's a copy of the Open Meetings Act on the north wall of the chambers if anybody wants to read that too. There is an automatic defibrillator available in the back of the chambers in case that is needed. And 3, if you have cell phones, will you please silence them or turn them off with that? Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll call the Board of Equalization to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson is absent. Commissioner Boyle? Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Duda? Here. Commissioner Kraft? Here. Commissioner Morgan? Mr. Chair.
Here. Item A is approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, April 10, 2018. Item B is call for a meeting and set Tuesday, April 24th as the date for hearing on the certified assessment corrections. It's the will of the board. Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Duda. Please vote.
The voting machines, you said, are not working?
The voting themselves are up, but just know to speak, you're going to need to tell me because the screen is down.
Okay. You'll notice on the screen, it'll list our votes. so the public knows how we voted.
Motion passes, all present voting yes.
And may I take a moment of
Please.
personal privilege? This is Dan Esch, one of the elected officials in charge of the record keeping for Douglas County. He is the Douglas County Clerk. In the back, we have Diane Badiato. I thought I saw her. She stepped out. She's the elected official from the Assessor Register of Deeds. The BOE, or the Board of Equalization, is a chance for the public to, Diane just walked back in, is a chance for the public to protest what they feel might be unfair tax valuation, and a chance for us to correct mistakes that are made clerically or through, we list your house as 1,000 square feet instead of 800 square feet. A chance for us to make corrections and the public to make corrections. That was all I was going to say.
I should have did this before, Commissioner Kraft, so the public that's watching will know why you're doing that. Can you note what you're doing and who's here?
Yes, we have a group from Southeast Asia. It's called the Southeast Asia Leadership Conference with us today, studying American government along with many other things. It's a great chance to create international friends. And there are 22 young people with us today. And could you all stand for just a second? You'll notice on the TV monitor, that's being broadcast live right now. Not on the public, well, on the public access channel, which is on cables. And most people have cable. It will also be broadcast later on the internet. Okay, now I'll shut up and
Okay. Well, with
I do
that,
not promise, Mike.
item C is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on Board of Equalization's related items that are not officially listed on the Board of Equalization's agenda. Are there any citizens' comments? Seeing none. We have Resolution D, approving applications for tax exemptions on motor vehicles, recommended for approval by the county treasurer. It's the will of the board. That includes adjournment. Motion for approval and adjournment by Commissioner Duda, second by Commissioner Boyle. Seeing no questions, please vote.
Motion passes, all present voting yes.
We'll now call to order the Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Borgeson is absent. Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Duda. Commissioner Kraft. Commissioner Morgan.
Here.
Mr. Chair.
Here. Item 1, minutes and claims. Letter A is approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, April 10, 2018. Item B is approval of claims submitted for payment and process through Tuesday, April 17, 2018. It's the will of the board. Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Kraft. Seeing no questions, please vote.
Motion passes, all present voting yes.
May I take another moment?
Please.
You'll see this book being passed around. This is the commissioner signing off on checks. This one happens to be payroll checks, but every check we write is listed on a searchable website. If you want to know how much I spend traveling, you can type in my name and the word travel, and it'll tell you what I spent this past year. Okay? If you want to know if I, whatever.
Had breakfast.
Bought, right, had bread, no, not quite. But yes, as I was telling you, we're very open. Mike, would you like this?
Sure.
So everybody has a chance to know exactly what we're doing.
Okay. We'll move now to item 2, which is the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. What's the will of the board? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Duda. Seeing no questions, please vote.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Motion passes, all present.
Sorry.
Item A has been removed. Item B is the resolution recognizing April 12th through April 19th of 2018 of the Week of the Holocaust Remembrance, honoring victims of the Holocaust and recognizing the solemn anniversary of the liberation of Nazi death camps. Commissioner Boyle.
Thank you. To explain this to our guests, the Holocaust was an event that I'm sure you're all familiar with, the taking of lives by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. And President Trump has issued a proclamation calling for remembrance during the week of April 12th to April 19th, so that we don't forget what happened. And frankly, I'm not a fan of President Trump, but I read the article and it was very well written. And so I want to acknowledge that this information, this proclamation was lifted from his proclamation, and I'm using his words. So they're really very good. And we have a person in our office, Leah, who's really talented and helped me put this together. So let me read this to you. Whereas President of the United States, Donald Trump, has proclaimed April 12 through April 19, 2018 as the Days of Remembrance of Victims of the Holocaust, honoring the victims and recognizing the solemn anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi death camps. And whereas Douglas County wishes to recognize this week of remembrance and reflect on one of the darkest periods in the history of the world and honor the victims of Nazi persecution. And whereas by the end of the Holocaust, the Nazis and their conspirators had murdered 6 million men, women, and children because they were Jews. They also persecuted and murdered millions of other Europeans, including Roma and Sinti gypsies, persons with mental and physical disabilities, Slavs and other minorities, Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, gays, and political dissidents. And whereas this year marks the 75th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, when the imprisoned Polish Jews mounted a courageous and extraordinary act of armed resistance against their Nazi guards. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of Douglas County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby recognizes April 12 through April 19, 2018 as the Week of Holocaust Remembrance, reminding everyone to come together to remember the innocent lives lost in the Holocaust and pay tribute to the selfless heroes who risked their lives in order to help or to save their persecuted neighbors. When I asked that this be put on the agenda, it was a little late, and we managed to get it on. I also asked the person who put this together to contact all the board members and ask for their support, rather than have me be introducing this by myself. All the commissioners agreed to support this, so this is a unified effort on behalf of all the county board here who represent all the people in Douglas County. So I'd like to ask Mr. Kraft, being of Jewish heritage, to make the motion to approve, if you would.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kraft, second by
Second.
Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kraft.
After we vote on
Oh, well, it's probably better to do it now before we vote.
it. Okay. I wish to thank my colleagues for supporting this resolution. As a minority, as a Jew who has personally experienced vandalism, graffiti, hate mail, broken windows, and death threats against my children, my wife, and myself, all related to my being Jewish. I have great fear after seeing the increase in anti-Semitism and the emboldenment of other hate groups inspired by political events over the past 2 years, including the Charleston incident. The seeming support of the president and the silence of the majority of the president's cabinet, let me repeat that, the silence, the refusal of many people of influence to condemn the increase of violence against Muslims, Jews, people of color, and other minority groups. I've talked to many a Holocaust denier over the years, and one of them who I know has been touting fake news everywhere he can, but he doesn't realize he is propagating fake news. To my friends who interpret the Constitution literally, they should also take the Declaration literally, that all men are created equal. I'd also like to thank 2 members of Congress, Nita Lowry, a Democrat from New York, and Chris Smith, a Republican from New Jersey, for pointing out in an article, editorial in the Jewish Press on April 13th of this year, that there is a growing wave on intolerance, xenophobia, and anti-Semitism taking place throughout the world. The position of special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism has remained vacant since the beginning of this administration. And there has been no staff in the office to monitor anti-Semitism since May of 2017. With these comments, I would like to recite my version of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, not to the Confederate flag, not to the flag of the Third Reich, but to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, again, not to fascism, not to the Confederacy or communism, but to the republic for which it stands, not any one individual. One nation, undivided, under God. And I interpret this to mean being ethical and morally standing, with liberty and justice for all. Not just for some of us, not just for those of us who are white, but for all of those, regardless of the religion or having no religion. No one is above the law, but for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Seeing no further comment, there's motion second. Please vote.
I vote yes.
Motion passes, all present voting yes.
With that, we'll go to item 4, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on any items related to the Board of Commissioners that are not officially listed on the agenda. Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to presentations. And I'm going to move B first, the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. Commissioner Kraft already explained a little bit, but if you want to do the intro before they come up.
Val, would you come to the podium? I'm going to let you introduce the group and why they're here and what brings us about.
Val, excuse me, Val McPherson, 6415 Glenwood Road, Omaha, Nebraska. I would like to thank the Douglas County Election Commissioners, the Douglas County Commissioners for allowing us to attend your meeting today and for the very warm reception which we have received. This is the 5th Wyseele delegation that I have had the pleasure to bring to this board. Wyseele stands for Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. These 22 young people have all been selected by the, excuse me, my phone has decided to talk on its own. Okay. Please send me a bill. This is the 5th delegation of Young Wyseeles I've had the pleasure to bring before the council. My experience with them has been a wonderful one, as the previous ones have been. Just to give you a quick reminder, these are all guests of the U.S. Department of State. They have been selected by the U.S. Department of State in conjunction with our 9 embassies in their 9 Southeast Asian countries. They have been selected as the best and the brightest. They have been selected as the future leaders of their countries. The selection process has been very similar to another State Department program called the International Visitor Leadership Program. This program is over 75 years old and has brought thousands of leaders and future leaders to the United States. The vetting process for these 2 programs is the same. The State Department, in conjunction with our embassies, picks the very best and invites them to the United States. To give you a perspective of just who you may have sitting in front of you today, in the case of the International Visitor Leadership Program, 335 of those alumni have gone on to be either president or prime minister of their country, not to mention all of the other extremely high roles that those people have played once they've returned to their countries. So you could very well have one or more future presidents or prime ministers sitting in front of you today. So thank you again for welcoming these 22 YSEALI's Young Southeast Asian Initiative participants. And we very much appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and we very much appreciate the attention which you have given us so far. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you for being here.
And if you are around after the meeting, I'd be glad to answer any other questions you have, as I'm sure most of the commissioners would be, or the other elected officials here. Thank you.
Thank you all. Item A is an update on the Local Work Ready initiative. I brought this back before the board because a year ago this was presented to us. The county, it triggered through the county for us to become a part of this initiative, and I wanted the board to get an update on the progress that's been made on this. For the last couple of years, we've been contributing about $30,000 to the effort, and along with the city. And Erin's going to present, Erin Porterfield. She has her staff here, and I'll let her introduce them. She is the executive director of the Heartland Workforce Solutions, which for Mayors Boyle, former Mayors Morgan, and Commissioner Kraft, when he was on the city council, that was CETA, which became Job Training Partnership Act, which became Workforce Investment Act, which is now the Workforce Investment Opportunities Act.
Close enough.
Okay. With that, Erin Porterfield.
Good morning. Erin Porterfield, Executive Director, Heartland Workforce Solutions, 5752 Ames Street, Omaha. Thank you for the opportunity, Commissioner Rogers, to update the Commission on the good things that are happening. Just a reminder that Heartland Workforce Solutions, while a nonprofit, also a quasi-governmental agency, has really legislative responsibility over a 3-county area to maximize workforce initiatives. So really making sure that we are efficient in our community to help job seekers, career seekers, but also businesses looking for the talent that they need. The cool thing about Heartland Workforce Solutions is that we are innovators. I'm learning nationally that it is hard for workforce development boards under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, to find opportunities to innovate, since the regulations can be so high and the money's tight. But what we have the luxury of, with the support of the Commission and the City Council and the Mayor, is to look for best practice opportunities, to try them out, and to be thinking about that, less in a programmatic way, but more in a systemic way. We know that we have multiple systems come to play when it comes to maximizing our workforce in our 3-county area: school systems, health systems, employers, so many departments of labor, voc rehab, education providers, adult education providers, etc. And really, the sweet spot for us, as you'll see, is bringing all these different systems together in a united way, in an aligned way, to maximize the workforce initiative. In an unemployment rate that is so low, which is both fantastic and tough, knowing that in some areas of our community, unemployment rates and poverty are much higher, especially with concentration with our minority neighbors, our minority residents, really takes us thinking and strategy that is different than just the same old day. So I'd like to introduce to you Keith Station. Keith, as you will see, is a master with this initiative. He has risen to a place of innovation that few get an opportunity to do in the workforce system. He is attentive to the areas of highest poverty and unemployment, which we were tasked to find strategies for, given the Commission's interest and also the City Council's and Mayor's interest. Our efforts are concentrated in our American Job Centers, one at 5752 Ames Street, but also a satellite at the Latino Center of the Midlands. But not just that, not just one address. It's really about taking a mobile workforce system to the people who need it the most, whether that's Douglas County Corrections, or that's Sienna Francis Shelter, or so it goes. So you'll hear a little bit more from Keith, and we'll entertain questions at the end.
Good morning. Keith Station, Heartland Workforce Solutions, Director of Business Relations, 5752 Ames Avenue. I'd also like to take a second to acknowledge my colleagues who are also here, Crystal Ryder, also with Heartland Workforce Solutions, and Tammy Green with Metropolitan Community College's Workforce Innovation Division. They are instrumental to the work we're doing. And so I'll take a moment to first thank the board for this opportunity. We love every opportunity to talk about some of the initiatives that we are championing that are truly industry-led, but get, as Aaron mentioned, innovative with a workforce development strategy. So I'll take a moment here. You have in your handouts that presentation, that PowerPoint presentation that I'll walk through and reference some of the information and data on these slides. So you'll see that I'm going to give you an update on the Work Ready Communities Initiative, and that is a sub-initiative, if you will, that addresses those areas that Aaron mentioned, connecting individuals from high poverty, high unemployment areas to sustainable wage employment. On that second slide, it says who we are. Heartland Workforce Solutions is a small nonprofit, but we're really a network of agencies who all, in some way, shape, or form, at the end of the day, try to connect individuals to employment. We have two customers. That's the job seeker and business. When you walk into Heartland Workforce Solutions, you really see a resource area, and you see the most apparent aspect of our operation, which looks like we're working with job seekers. What you don't see is a little bit more behind the scenes, where we're working with businesses to make sure that they have the talent that they need. We do that through numerous strategies. On the third slide, you'll see just a sample of some of the services offered at Heartland Workforce Solutions and through our partners. I would just highlight a couple of those things like job fairs and hiring events, personal finance coaching at no cost to individuals, services for blind and visually impaired individuals, opportunities to connect to grants and funding for training. We have a clothing closet available for individuals that may need that for interviewing or for work purposes, bilingual staff, and resume assistance. And again, as Aaron mentioned, our goal is to make sure that as many of our services that are available at 5752 Ames are available at our affiliate locations like Latino Center of the Midlands and Common, Open Door Mission, AIM Institute, and even Omaha Public Schools' Career Center. On the next slide, you have the Career Readiness to Eliminate Disparities, or CRED strategy. And that was led by the Heartland Workforce Solutions Board.
Keith, is there a way to put the slides up on the screen? Yeah, you got paper copies, right?
Paper copies that are distributed, but
they're asking, can you put them up? But there's a way that they can help you put it there to show it.
Actually, Tammy, can I borrow you?
So that'll allow you right there next to you. Yep.
So here, the Career Readiness to Eliminate Disparities strategy is the overarching framework that describes the work that Aaron mentioned that really is meant to be more intentional in connecting individuals from zip codes such as 68111 and 67110, where unemployment is in excess of 18%. And it seeks to partner with other community-based organizations to sort of streamline some of those activities. And it utilizes the National Career Readiness Certificate. ACT has a product called the National Career Readiness Certificate. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the ACT, the academic ACT, which is a product that's designed by that entity to predict the success of an individual's first year in college. Well, they also have a career readiness assessment, and that's what we're utilizing. It is an assessment, but it's not meant to be exclusionary or to be an additional barrier for individuals. It really takes a snapshot of where people are and offers an opportunity, a path, if you will, to sustainable wage employment in the industry sectors that represent the highest growth and sustainable wages. So the next slide here gives an overview of the National Career Readiness Certificate. It focuses on three areas: applied math, graphic literacy, and workplace documents. And those are three assessments that represent three of the most critical areas of work that transcend or go across all types of industry. You take the assessment, it takes about 3 hours, and you can walk out of that assessment experience with a credential in hand that you can achieve that same day. That can go on your resume. It's not designed to compete with any certification or training or degrees that you may have, but more so to complement those. It's a foundational, stackable credential that complements any other experience you have, and also articulates what you bring to the world of work for the employer. Again, as Aaron mentioned, that is what industry is asked for, is in addition to help and focus on some of those employability skills that sometimes are lacking for job seekers. How can we know if they are equipped to do the jobs that we have? Metropolitan Community College is our key partner in this endeavor. And again, we work very closely with Tammy and her team to make sure that MCC can serve as the proctoring agent for the assessment. They also do job skill alignments for us, which really take a look at the roles that businesses have and make sure that the NCRC assessment level that individuals have match the jobs that they're seeking. And they also, I'll draw your attention to that last point there, they also are instrumental in helping us to design a career placement pipeline, which is a really focused, intensive way to help people land those jobs. So that includes taking the National Career Readiness Certificate. That also includes conducting mock interviews, customer service training, and the employer is a part of that process. So you go through what is approximately a week-long process, and then you are involved with the employer along the way. And at the end, they would ideally offer you an opportunity, a job, because of your commitment to that process and their identification of your skills and a background to be a fit for their needs. So that's an opportunity we look forward to sharing more about, given the success that we anticipate with that program. Make sure I'm. Pardon me, I got my slides out of order here. So we are, again, utilizing the National Career Readiness Certificate, and we've decided to become a certified work-ready community. Well, what is a certified work-ready community? That is an overarching framework that takes that assessment, that asks you to partner with other stakeholders to make sure that that certificate is useful, again, for businesses and job seekers in your community. It uses labor market information that helps us to focus on sustainable wage occupations. It tells us that jobs in sectors such as manufacturing and IT and tech careers and construction and healthcare and transportation, distribution, logistics, those high growth sectors where there are a ton of available jobs in our community, are at the forefront. And we're doing intentional things to connect individuals to those types of jobs. Again, it partners, it asks us, it requires us to partner with other key stakeholders that include other workforce partners, the Economic Development Partnership, as well as the Chamber, the community colleges I mentioned, MCC, K through 12 stakeholders, local government, and we've done that with the city's support as well as with Commissioner Rogers as an HWS champion and board member. And also, obviously, business and industry have to be involved. Again, business-led strategic initiatives. The next slide is for your information, gives you an understanding of the common definitions we look at when we think about different segments of the workforce. So the current workforce looks like people who are currently employed in either public or private entities, but who are looking or maybe underemployed. The next transitioning workers look like unemployed individuals that may be adult learners or military. And then also emerging learners, which in most cases look like students, secondary students, as well as recent grads, college and high school. So ACT helped us to find what our goal should be for this journey along to become a certified work-ready community. And they base the goals in which the goals are individuals that have the NCRC certificate as well as the number of businesses that sign on to recognize the credential. They look at the demographics of your county and they give you goals to attain. So if you look on that slide there, we end up being a large county B size with roughly 550,000 people living in the county. And that then means we end up having to have about 1,453 individuals that need to earn the NCRC certificate and 228 businesses to sign on. We have a 2-year period to achieve that. We kicked this effort off in March of 2017. We hosted an event at one of the engaged employers, and Commissioner Rogers and Mayor Stothard came to help us kick it off and generate some buzz surrounding the initiative. And here we are a year later, as we've just acknowledged the 1-year anniversary this last month at the Metropolitan Community College's Cape Building, and we acknowledged some employers and thanked partners for the progress we're making. And related to the progress, just to give you an idea, a snapshot of where we are, again, about 13 months into the initiative, we're about 67% of the way there. And how that 67% is calculated takes the number of the different segments of the workforce that I described a while ago. It takes that and the number of employers that need to sign on and looks where you are in terms of your totals and gives you a percentage there. So whereas we're right at about halfway through the 2-year time window, we're about 67% of the way there. And that's good, and we're trending well, but we need to do more to make sure we're engaging industry at maybe a bit of a faster clip. So we look forward to doing that. The next slide, for your information, workreadycommunities.org. If you have time, take a look at that website. That's if you ever want to know where we are today. That gives you a snapshot of the number of businesses and which businesses have signed on to recognize the credential, and the number of individuals at various levels who have attained that credential. So workreadycommunities.org, click on the state of Nebraska, and you'll see Douglas County there right away. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll see a listing of the businesses that have signed on to support. A couple of images from our 1-year anniversary. In the top left corner there, Jesse DePriest is a board member, and he's the Director of Continuous Improvement at Airlight Plastics. I don't know if Jesse's joined us. Jesse's in the audience. I highlight that because Jesse's been a great champion for us and has been a voice of industry to help us to understand what they're seeing in terms of retention strategies and needs and talent. Airlight was recognized they received the Certificate of Employer Excellence for being such a great champion with us along the way. Councilman Ben Gray helped us to deliver a message to the assembled stakeholders and businesses that were in the audience. This was a great event. Here is a sample of just some of the businesses that have signed on to recognize the credential. I would just draw your attention to the diversity and the types of companies, everything from manufacturers to healthcare, to IT, to nonprofit agencies, to construction, and so on, financial services, transportation. Again, those are some of I think today we have over 70 companies that have signed on to recognize the credential. Those are just a sample of some of those businesses we work with to make sure they understand the value of the credential.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
How small a company can participate? I see the companies and they're larger companies, but how small a company could participate?
Sure, it's available for small businesses as well. To be counted as a full unit, if you will, in terms of our employer sign-on goals, you have to have more than 5 employees.
Okay.
And if you have less than that, you can still sign on to support the agenda or the initiative, but you won't be counted as one full business. And we have a few small businesses that have signed on.
Good. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question. A couple more slides here. So this just sort of outlines the process. I didn't share this one. This outlines the process for becoming a certified work-ready community. This requires us to submit an application, again, that gathers those six stakeholders, workforce, industry, K through 12, community college, economic development, and the community college. We attend 4 trainings where we meet with other communities from around the country. We had a cohort of about a dozen other communities that were seeking this work-ready communities certification designation. And we met on 4 occasions and talked about best practices for engaging industry and for offering the NCRC assessment effectively. And then we launched the event. You launch the event and you generate awareness and buzz around the initiative in your community. That's what we did about a year ago when we kicked the initiative off. Again, those are our goals that we have. And finally, the only slide I haven't shared is just our contact information. But I would welcome any questions and let you know that we are, while we've enjoyed some success with this, and hopefully it all sounds great, and it is, but we need your help. We want to make sure we're engaging industry. We want to make sure that it's apparent in terms of how you sign on and support the initiative. In your handout that you have, we have a sign-on sheet that gives you step-by-step how to sign on. You can go to that workreadycommunities.org website, or you can contact one of us on this sheet here to have a business sign-on. In terms of organizations or job seekers that you may encounter, just send them to Heartland Workforce Solutions or one of our affiliate locations. And we can help them to find out how to take the assessment, again, at no cost to the assessment taker. Help us spread the word and help us to continue this work. Again, we're in year 3 of this effort, and we have a lot of lessons learned, and hopefully some more things to achieve in the near future and beyond. Thank you, Aaron. To give you an example of how the process works and how it benefits job seekers. Again, at that event that we hosted at about a month ago, we had a gentleman who is an employee at Airlight Plastics, we asked him to share his account with the businesses and the agencies in the room because his journey was really captures the essence of why this initiative is important. He didn't have any formal education beyond secondary school and had trouble finding opportunities that really fit, opportunities where he saw an opportunity to grow and stay. And he talked about how the process of taking the NCRC assessment and going through that career placement pipeline program helped him to be more confident, helped him to see a way at the company that he worked with, which was Airlight Plastics, by the way. And he saw himself with opportunity to grow within the organization. And it was great because we asked him to take a couple of moments to share his experience. And he said some things that we weren't even aware that he would share, just about how empowering it was for him and how it's really changed his life because he has this certification that is transferable, that can travel with him anywhere he goes, that he knows that the workforce partners are working with other agencies and businesses to make sure that more people recognize the credential. And he really felt empowered, and it was great for him to share his account with the group. And that's one example of others. He even talked about how one of the career skills coaches that works with MCC went to the interview process with him and stayed with him to check to see how the interview went. And that sort of commitment is maybe represents some of the untold stories that you may not know when we're helping to connect individuals to employment. So it was a really powerful account, and we're happy that he is doing well there. And we hope to emulate that with others that go through the process and are ultimately placed, again, with jobs that pay a sustainable wage in companies that represent high growth, high demand industry sectors. And we'll continue to share this account with other employers who may be interested in supporting the initiative. It really takes a combined effort. After 2 years, after we achieve the certification, you may be thinking, then what? Well, the value is really in the process because it requires, again, all 6 of those stakeholder groups to work together. We meet about twice a month to talk strategy for how we can, again, build this dual value proposition for the job seeker and the employer. The value for the job seeker is a number of companies that have signed on to recognize it, again, across the industry. And the value for the businesses, we're building a labor pool of individuals who have this certificate that articulates what they bring to their company potentially. And so we're working on both sides of that to make sure that folks and organizations and individuals and businesses are aware of the value of it.
That it?
Thank you.
Okay, you have 2 questions. Commissioner
Yes.
Kraft and Boyd.
Commissioner Rogers, before I ask my question, would you like to find out who joined us in the back rows?
I will if they, sir, I'm assuming you're the spokesperson. We just had a group of kids.
Students here that are on their courthouse tour today. These students are with us today from Mary R. Queen.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, so we have a bunch of students from Mary R. Queen. I'm repeating it because he didn't speak in the mic. Okay, welcome. I've never seen so many students of your age sit so still as long as you have. Up front, we have a group from Southeast Asia, learning about our government. And for the group, both groups, we have a World Herald reporter over here. So one of the Southeast Asians was asking us about news media. So I thought I'd point that out, Chris. Okay. Okay, I have one short, simple question. Related to Alice Station?
I am. Any and all stations you may know are relatives of mine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Alice was a very dear friend of mine, and I've got stories, but
Thank you,
I
sir.
won't tell them here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I have a question about the station name too. Any relation to Eddie?
You may be thinking Staten?
Oh, yeah, excuse me, I've got it wrong.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
Yep, excuse me. Well, listen, I'll get to business. I wanted to ask, first of all, I have to remark that I have had 6 grandchildren who went through Mary R. Queen, have 2 grandchildren there now. Anybody know Jack Boyle in the 7th grade? Well, Jack's my grandson. And anybody know Emmy in the 2nd grade? She's, oh, cool, look at that. She's got more hands than Jack. I'll tell Jack that. Emmy would be real happy. Great to have you here. I'm surprised. Very pleasant. Had good experiences at Mary R. Queen. It's a terrific parish. My son Jim and his wife Mary belong to the parish. So good to see you. I want to ask Mr. Staten about the what's your relationship with the inmates at Douglas County Corrections?
Sure. We have a partnership with Douglas County Corrections where we offer the NCRC assessment, and we work with the team there to offer some of those employability skills and training within the jails on a monthly, at least a monthly basis at this point. And that the reentry space is very important to us to make sure we, again, are building some of those coalitions, employers that want to hire ex-offenders, and also making sure that they understand the resources that are available at Heartland Workforce Solutions and through our network of partners.
Okay. Have you had do you have numbers on, I don't know if you need to pull them out right now, but do you have numbers of what happens when you deal with these folks? Are they successful in getting and retaining jobs?
Sure. I don't have them today, but we do have some of that data. I can get that.
Okay. Well, Mary R. Queen, take care, be safe, and have a good time today. Good to see you all. I'm real curious about it because I've talked to some people who own a business that it's mechanical repairs and so forth, and motor vehicles, and they are interested in setting up a relationship with training of individuals who come out of corrections. And so I don't know if you have one. I looked at the lists here and I don't see one, but it's something. If you don't, I'll talk to you about it and open up the relationship on your behalf with them. Okay, and then let's see. I guess that's really all. And I'm curious. This maybe I missed it, but do you have numbers of who's getting placed and whether they're staying there and all this kind of thing? Do you have that? If you don't, I'd like to see it. First of all, I'm very impressed with the program.
Thank you.
Really am, and I really appreciate the chair bringing this to our attention. I like to see these things, and I'm very enthusiastic, and if there's something we can do to help, and that includes money, we'll see what we can do about that.
Sure. Thank you.
I make that pledge myself, but anyway.
Thank you. I would share with you that so we are make sure that we conservatively track the number of individuals we know that get placed. For example, in 2017, over the course of the year, there were about 131 individuals that we know obtained employment as a result of some of the processes.
What was the number? 130?
131.
Oh, good.
And and through the first about quarter of this year, we know that there have been some others.
Right.
And we do have some data that for the individuals that go through that career placement pipeline that I talked about, that more focused, intensive, week-long process. I think there's retention of about 80+% of individuals that go through that are retained on the job, and so that's important too. That's the thing that employers have told us is important, is that retention piece. Sometimes people can get hired, but are they staying? So we'll have more focus on that as we move forward. We'll continue to have more focus on retention efforts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Duda?
Thank you. As our White Sealy delegation heads out, nice to have you all with us this morning. Hope you have a good experience here.
Keith, you got another question?
Where'd Keith go? He left. Keith, this is a great presentation. I'm thrilled to hear what you are doing. This has got to be kind of an interesting time. I mean, that we have some of the lowest unemployment in the country, and historically very low unemployment, and yet you bring to our attention the disparate, that it is still high in some places within our community. It was interesting, my son works part-time for me, and he has a CDL. He was reviewing his job, and he had 3 people bidding for him to come to work for them. I mean, there is such a labor shortage
Absolutely.
right now. And when I look at our jail, at our corrections officers, that we're scrambling trying to find 40 more corrections officers. We can't get enough nurses to keep our health center functioning as well as we would like. There's just these labor shortages that we're having to deal with. Is there anything that your group can do? Like, have we ever gotten any corrections officers from you? Have you ever steered anybody our direction? I mean, if you have access to people looking for jobs, and that's a rare commodity in this environment, and we need that. We need those people. Is there anything that you are or can do to help steer a few of them towards the county?
Sure. Well, first off, the occupation you just mentioned, that CDL licensed person, that's the #1 job in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Is a truck driver.
Yes.
And transportation is huge, and there's so many opportunities there, as well as in healthcare, as you mentioned. So yes. So we focus on those industries that are poised for growth: manufacturing, IT, healthcare, transportation, and construction. We also see opportunities in the public sector. As a matter of fact, we hosted a career exploration networking tour last year that was a convening of individuals to learn about opportunities in human services in a nonprofit and public sector. And we'll continue to do that because there are a lot of available well-paying jobs in the sector you just mentioned. And so yes, we want to shine a light on that. We do a lot of education, career exploration education in our work. So that's part of it. So we understand we have the good problem, as you mentioned, as Aaron mentioned, of low unemployment, but that unfortunately leaves employers looking for talent and maybe hiring individuals that they wouldn't hire in a time where we may have more available talent. And so we're addressing it in the way that we want to make sure that we place the right people in jobs so that they have opportunities to grow and stay versus just warm bodies in jobs. We want to make sure we educate individuals that there are occupations in the public sector, and then even a little bit deeper. Sometimes, particularly in healthcare, people don't understand the types of jobs that are available other than just the health sciences version of a job. And so in IT is cross-cutting in all industries. And we try to make sure people know that with certain levels of education and training that can be affordable and that can be realistic, that you can achieve some of those jobs that maybe you don't see at face value when you hear about a hospital or healthcare sector or transportation. So really education is that opportunity, making sure we make it easy for individuals to get to explore funding solutions that they may need is part of that.
Okay.
And also your engagement. We would request your assistance in helping us to learn about some of those opportunities so we can educate the job seekers about where those jobs are.
Very good. Anybody you can steer our direction, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Airlight's great, but we want those employees too.
And I don't know if you noted, but without going deep into it, at least from the healthcare front, there was an article mentioned about a group that they're convening to try to get at some of the healthcare shortage. So hopefully once that plays itself out, there may be some opportunities there. Seeing nothing else?
Thank
Keith,
you.
appreciate it, and look forward to next update in regards to progress.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
You go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 7 is committee reports. Item A is finance, and item 1 is the budget report. Commissioners Morgan and Boyle.
Well, we've got Mr. Lorenz going to kind of give us an update of where we are. If Joe, that'd be okay. And I think we've got Mr. Leahy here to tell us he's been able to reduce his budget, I think 20%.
Yeah, we're going to, start our formal budget process this year. All the different departments have been working on their budgets. Most of them are submitted. And this year, we're following the same policy we did last year, where any of the departments that not meet their target for budget will come in and present the reason for their overage to the county board and the finance committee. But before we start with that, what we like to do is always have the public properties group, Jerry and Jeff, come up and talk about the capital plan over the next several years as we put $1 million every year into the budget for capital spending. And so they're going to come up and talk about some of the specifics, where that money's going to go.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Jerry Leahy, along with Jeff McGill. Before we start the presentation, I want to thank you all for previous approvals of our upgraded capital improvement budget. I think about 3 years ago, you all agreed to upgrade us to $1 million a year so we could play catch up in our maintenance of our facility. So with that, let me just review a little bit of last year's, kind of a recap of the projects from last year. We completed the chiller replacement project at the health center for $85,000 out of that budget. The total project cost was, for that chiller, was $607,000. You may recall. But so to manage these projects that are this large, we have to encumber funds from previous years to reach and attain that level to pay for the upgrade. So that's the reason for the $85,000 on that. It was the remainder of the total of the $607. Last year's budget, we've already awarded the roof replacement at the Kavanaugh Care Center, $246,000. That will start in May. I think you've all seen the first floor renovation at the health center, $75,000. We upgraded the building management system at the youth center for $130,000, and then during the year we have several unforeseen conditions at our facilities that involve 25 properties. So various things that come up unplanned, but we try to set aside some funds to make that available to be repaired and keep them going. The capital improvement plan for this year, as Joe mentioned, we have hit the target of $1 million, but that doesn't mean we're going to not ask for more after Jeff gets back up here. We have a $700,000 mechanical electrical renovation at the 1215 HHS building. It's about 40.
See, excuse me. Are you talking about the past now or the future?
This will be this year's.
Okay, can you do me a favor and go by the budget, talk that way? I mean, talk about the downtown locations and what you're doing there. And then,
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, I can't follow what you're doing.
Okay. Well, it should be on that handout. This should be the third sheet.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
Okay.
And I've got it on my computer too. Proposed capital improvement?
Yes.
Okay.
1819?
It's $1 million?
Yes.
Okay, you're talking about the ceiling renovation and stuff, this first
Well,
one?
yeah, it's mechanical, electrical, ceiling.
Okay.
This is the 1215 South 42nd HHS building.
Okay, where is this on your presentation that you gave us?
It should be on that third sheet.
Well, I mean, there's another one you gave us too.
Yeah, that's coming up. That'll be more of a detailed assessment by Jeff of the various properties.
I'll just wait. I'm going to tune everything out until he talks
Okay.
about what's on what can go through these things one by one.
Okay.
Thanks.
So then we have designated ADA restroom upgrades at a couple of different offices. Budgeted $25,000 for that. Exterior signage is at the health center, $25,000. Miscellaneous window replacement for $15,000. Miscellaneous concrete at all locations. And again, unforeseen conditions at all the facilities for $200,000, which gets us to the $1 million. Let me talk a little bit about some of the energy efficiencies that we've gained. You're all aware of the LED lighting. Due to the bond project construction at Corrections. That phase one, as you know, has been completed. We have an LED lighting project completed at the Boiler House at 156 in Maple. And on our Fitzgerald home project for 911, et cetera. The geothermal system, we have already received a check from OPPD for participating in that program. I think it was about $7,900. I tried to get it from Joe, but he wouldn't release it to public property, so it goes into the general fund. So with that, I'm going to let Jeff kind of go over some of these projects in more detail, and that would affect some of Commissioner Boyle's questions.
Maybe ask one quick question, and maybe you want us to wait. The signage, exterior signage, 25,000.
That's at the health center.
Yeah,
You've seen one. This will be phase two, and the larger sign.
Okay, you've been involved in that,
Yes.
Claire, and
We're in the process of doing two. One sign's already up inside the circle. When you go out there, you'll see a new sign telling the major departments that are within the facility. We still intend to put one up closer to the corner, just describing what all is on the campus.
okay, all right.
Okay. With that, I'll let Jeff go into more detail, unless you have more questions at this time. Jeff? I think you could scroll down, but you may not be able to.
Jeff McGill, Public Properties. Every year, Joe tells us we need to live within a limit, but we challenge him and the board, I guess. This year, if you run through this budget, we're asking for almost 1.5 million. No, total, 500,000 more. This capital improvement plan is broken into 3 campuses: downtown, midtown, and west campuses. So I'll start with the, if you want me to run through each one of these, I can. We can concentrate on the first couple of years. The Criminal Justice Center, we don't really have all that. Well, let me back up. The big project this year is the 1215 HVAC renovation. So that's taking up a big chunk of the money. So this year we don't have a lot of other things going on. So Criminal Justice Center, we don't have anything that we targeted. The 408 building, which is a .com building, is a miscellaneous concrete repair or asphalt repair. And then next year, we're thinking about to update a mechanical system on second floor. This is probably the first phase of several floors. It's an older building. We're trying to update that facility to be more energy efficient. The Department of Corrections, of course, we know that we have the public safety bond, doing a lot of work for the capital improvement plan, so we don't have a lot of money tossed towards that other than some exterior concrete. And the reason why you see exterior concrete in every year is the salt deteriorates that concrete, and we have to replace due to liability. Courthouse, Civic Center, there's no money towards that. We do have next year and forward about $3,000 for just miscellaneous repairs. We tend to try to work with the user groups and do share costing. That's why that's about $3,000. So we do, let's see, next one is the treasurer's offices. We've been budgeting at $3,000 to $4,000 a year, and that's we hit that sometimes and we come under the other times. Last year we were light, and we didn't meet that, but that's all right. Next sheet The Douglas County Health Center. We're going to have a retaining wall project in the back by the kitchen area. The retaining walls are failing. We're also going to replace the concrete pavement back in that area. It will be a cast-in-place concrete. It'll clean up the area back there, and we're looking forward to that project, and that will happen this summer. Of course, the exterior sign we talked about. We do have some under Tier 1 assessments. There's an underground tank that we have to test for and close out that's near the youth center, and the testing cost will be around $20,000 to test and remove. Yes. It's an old one. Building management system, if possible, the health center, we budgeted $45,000. Concrete, or not concrete, but carpet and flooring. Every year someone wants something updated, and basically it's the carpet and flooring that typically is requested, so we put some money in there. Kavanaugh Building, they have 4 whirlpool rooms in that facility. Whirlpool,
okay.
and they are aged. We've been trying to address this issue for past 4 years. This is a cost-sharing project too with the health center. But once we take the step, the rooms are pretty much identical, so once we do one, we'll follow suit on the others. But it's an expensive project. The boiler room and chiller room, we do have a oil tank, another one underground. At some point, we'd like to install an above-ground tank and get rid of the underground tank by the Tier 1 assessment again, before it creates the county any liability. Window replacements and an old transformer that needs to be updated also, but that's out next year. Still at the Midtown location, Douglas County Warehouse, we have some condensers and evaporators for the freezers and cooler units there that house the frozen food for the health center and youth center. And also there's a section of roof that needs to be replaced. It's the middle section. There's 3 sections on that building. The youth center, little work is proposed there. Going down to the Ag Extension Building. They want to do a upgrade renovation, and it probably needs it. We are working on that currently, and we are doing a cost-sharing project with them to update their larger restroom. 1101 facility, which is on the 42nd Street campus. They're in dire need of some window replacement or upgrades. At this time, we'll replace what we can and repair what we can. The 1215 facility, that's the big item for the year. It's we've had past 3 years we've had problems with the heating and cooling in that facility. We replaced condensing units, motors, and just the other day we have another failure. So I think it's time to replace rather than repair, because it's costing us more money. And then also with that project, we are doing alternates to see if we can replace the ceiling and lighting to LED. At that age of the building has a different ceiling. It's a different architecture. There's not very good controls for the heating and cooling. It's a manual control, so if we move forward on the heating and cooling, it's going to be a building management, so you can control it from your computer. Next sheet. The election facility. We do not have anything targeted this year. And we did push the roof project out 1 year just to see where that's going to land. West locations, the garage needs a roof replacement next year. Engineering office, again, roofs. If you can imagine, we have so many roof projects, we need to do at least one a year to keep up. The 911 facility, the condensing unit is the only thing that we need to pay attention to, and I put that on there just because of the age of it. It's working right now, and it's a backup. We test it every year, but at some point, I want to keep it on the list to pay attention to it. The sheriff's facility, basically concrete, and they have an HVAC unit also, condensing unit replacement for budgeted for 2020. And the boiler house, right now we have big steel doors, and we'd like to put some overhead doors on that facility because it's evolving into more of a warehouse type facility that we need to get in and out of the building, and the access to it is pretty limited, but that's 2020. So the last sheet is the totals out 5 years. We're running 1.4, 1.7, pretty consistency. We have been in the past, but we do appreciate the funds that are given because I think we do accomplish a lot with that. Any questions?
Commissioner Boyle.
Well, first of all, I think you guys do a terrific job. And we've got a lot of old buildings to work with and all that sort of thing. I had some questions. I wanted to ask on pages aren't numbered, but it's the first one that has all the, starts out with the downtown locations and all that kind of stuff. Tell me first, where is the 408 building? What is that?
408 is the .com building.
Oh, .com.
Across the street.
All right.
To the south.
Okay, all right. On the Courthouse Civic Center, and I'm on the Building Commission with Commissioner Duda, and what is the, I've never really got it in my head. I guess we're treated as we are a tenant in our own building. I mean, last time somebody said, I think it was Paul Cohen said that Douglas County owned the building, so I'm trying to figure out how we're a tenant in the building we own. But anyway, we have the responsibility for maintaining and doing the painting and all that sort of thing inside the building, right? Because we're like a tenant.
In the courthouse.
Okay, well, I'm trying to shove that off onto the building commission, but it didn't work. I'll work on that. On the health center, those retaining walls are, God, they're so expensive, it's unreal. Is there any way to, excuse me, I don't know where this is, I have a clue, but is there any way to use grading of the land to get rid of that retaining wall instead of just, is there any way to bring in dirt and sort of slope it down or do something so you don't have to worry about this?
Typically, we would look at that. This area is in between the health center and the youth center.
Yeah, okay.
So these walls are probably 12 foot high, and there's not a lot of space to grade them appropriately, so we do need those retaining walls.
Do they run east-west? Does the wall run east-west then?
Yes, there's one east-west, one north-south.
Okay, all right. Well, I know so much about retaining walls.
No, I appreciate the comment because
Okay.
we do look at that also.
Yeah, a relative had a wall that collapsed, and I said, well, why don't you just grade it, instead of having that wall that nobody really sees anyway. So,
right.
I wanted to ask about on the Kavanaugh building, why do we have whirlpools there? I mean, is that for therapy or what's the deal?
It's the main bathing rooms.
Yeah.
In Kavanaugh.
Right.
4 bathing rooms, 2 on each floor. So it's used a lot, and it has a shower and then the whirlpool in one room. So they're just aged.
But I guess I'm getting at, why do we have whirlpools? I mean, I don't understand that. We don't have whirlpools anywhere else, do we?
No, but in healthcare facilities they do.
Okay, so,
I don't know if I can answer that question.
okay, well, who would be the person in charge of that? Would it be Jean?
Jean.
Okay, I'll ask her what the deal is with whirlpools.
But we do have them on other floors throughout the
Okay,
house.
I'll just ask.
Okay.
I'm not trying to deprive anybody, curious.
Well, you have to remember these are wings that don't have private showers in the rooms.
Yeah.
And so these are communal. I mean, you have
Yeah.
2 rooms for the whole wing that have a shower and a whirlpool in them.
Okay, I guess what I'm thinking is, what's wrong with a shower and a bath?
Okay.
I mean, I mean, what is the,
There might be
it's-
some therapy.
Therapeutic.
I mean, yeah, and, I mean, I don't know the size of the whirlpools, I'm not trying to become an expert on the whole thing, but when we remodeled our condo on 37th of Dewey, we bought a really nice one with a whole bunch of jets and stuff, and it was way too small for me, I think that was planned, but anyway, so, I had a feeling. So anyhow, it's like 3 feet long, I get the picture. So anyway, but anyway, it's really pretty terrific, and it was like $600, I'm just driving with that. So anyway, I'll talk to Gene and we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to deprive anybody, I want to make that clear. One thing that really makes me crazy is the next one, these boilers. I don't know, do other, I guess we're like, here, we're hooked up to this major thing over by the YMCA, aren't we, that provides all the, so we don't have boilers here, do we? In these buildings?
I'm not sure if we do here or not.
Okay.
But like
Well-
our 408 building right over here,
Yeah.
where we don't.
Okay,
The criminal justice,
yeah,
we eliminated the boiler, went
Right.
to electric,
right,
which reduced the capacity. So it's not a 24/7 facility. We
Okay.
still are at the corrections center.
Right.
We still are at the health center.
we have boilers at the corrections?
Yes.
Okay,
So
Well,
two areas, we still have those.
okay, and that's corrections and who?
Health center,
Oh, okay, that's what this is, isn't it?
yes.
Okay. And I'm not trying to put anybody out of jobs or anything else, but it seems like it'd be more efficient possibly, and maybe we could explore that, what you've done. You did that with, I think, with the former Goodwill building when we took that over, the one that you promised me you were going to name after me. But anyway, that.
It's not over yet.
Anyhow, anyway, so that, so you do that, so I'm thinking maybe if you can kind of think along those lines again and tell us, look in the future and see if there's some way that we could preempt this expense and replace it with whatever it was you did over there. It was pretty cool. So, and maybe look at corrections as well to see if there's something you can do over there. Then I'm really curious about, excuse me, the Douglas County Health Center warehouse on the next page. We moved back to the old market, and whenever I leave in the morning, of course, you gotta move all around all the food trucks and, the big trucks delivering vegetables and other products. And I just wonder whether, I don't think that those restaurants downtown store a lot of food. I mean, I think they have virtually every other day deliveries, something like that. And so I wonder whether we should look at how we're ordering food. Maybe we don't need to store it. Is there some, and that again would probably be who, Gene?
Eric
Hardy?
Carlson,
Oh, okay,
purchasing.
all right. Well, I'll ask some questions about this, and I'm not trying to rock the boat too much, but I think it may be the sort of thing where, I can't think of the phrase, but there is a phrase for this, where you order.
Just in time
What is it?
inventory. Just in time inventory.
Just in time sort of stuff. Maybe we ought to try to see if that's something we could do and change how this works. But I'll ask some people around. Obviously, I'll ask Chris, because he knows what's going on, not me. The next question down here, at 1101 facility, where is that? What is that, 42nd Street?
42nd and Pacific.
Okay, is that the health department, or state of
State.
Nebraska? State. So they're a tenant.
That's on the corner.
Okay, are they a tenant? Is this a tenant?
Yeah.
We're not the tenant, we're the owner, we're the
We're the owner
landlord?
of the building.
We're the
We
landlord.
Provide space to them.
Okay. Are they gonna pay for any of this stuff?
No.
Well, when we're a tenant, we pay, how come they don't?
Well,
Is that kinda like?
we need, dating way back, we provide space to them free, due to some commitment that was made prior to my knowledge.
By the state.
It's kinda like Emily Totila, we're the phone company, we don't care. Remember her? Okay, well, listen, I'm gonna ask some questions about that, because, you know, a freebie like this is unreal. So, and particularly when it's the state, I mean, it doesn't, I wonder how in the world that happened.
It's a state statute.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That we have to provide it for free?
Yes.
Oh, my good. Wow. What?
Or at least for them. If
Okay.
we don't have the facility, we'll have to lease the facility for them.
Okay, that's really out of this world. Okay. Okay.
That's what I.
And the 1215 facility, where is that?
It's
Same
right
place?
next to the 1101.
Okay.
To the south.
Okay.
On 42nd Street.
And who's in there?
HHS.
Okay, they're good friends at HHS. And, well, I guess I understood that, who's at 1101 then, if that's not HHS?
Same group.
Same people, both of them HHS, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's the way life is sometimes. What about the election facility? I know that on the next page, we're moving sometime, but obviously we have to have the roof in good condition if we're going to sell it, right? Is that the deal?
You know, right now it's not leaking, and we know it's
Well, it's
due.
not raining either, but anyway.
We managed to repair it at
Yeah.
this point, and, you know. it's
Okay, well,
gonna be-
that's, I see that's off in 2020 anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd probably be out of there by then. Okay, good deal. Down, let's see, 911, is this in their new facility, new facility? It must be.
Existing building,
Yeah. Okay,
right.
all right. And then, let's see, again, we got the West Campus Boiler House, and that's kind of the same deal. When, next page is miscellaneous, and A&E Design Services, is that you, or that's not you, it's somebody else, private company?
Outside services,
Okay, and you put that to bid, of course,
yes,
through the A&E committee?
yes.
Okay, good deal. All right, well, that's great. You've got a terrific job as usual. It's really good, nice and tight, and it's really important to do maintenance. We're sorry that I've probably contributed myself to putting the brakes on some of these things in the past, so I'm glad you're doing this. You need to, so.
Well, if anybody has a chance to visit the health center, Jim Cheesy could take you down to the chiller room. We have 2 new chillers and pumps and things like that. It looks great. It's big change of where we were 4 years ago.
You gonna name that room after me instead? I'm just kidding. Hey, listen.
Mike Boyle's chiller room.
Chiller room. Chill out. Chill out. That's me. Just chill out. Okay. No, thanks a lot. I appreciate what you do, and you're doing a great job.
Thank
Really are. You're terrific, I think.
Commissioner Duda.
Thank you. This does look good, and I appreciate you're giving us at least the opportunity to try to keep up with maintenance. Deferred maintenance scares me. If you stick around on a board long enough, you learn that these things will come back to bite you if you don't keep current with them. Regarding the boiler at the health center, I would remind Commissioner Boyle that we are talking to the Med Center, the long term, about the possibility of working with them as they hook up to the VA, and we're sitting in between. And so we are exploring the possibility of making some significant changes in that down the road if it works out, and I'm hopeful that it will. I would also say we have somebody new over the dietary out of the health center now who seems to be pretty progressive and receptive, and if there's ever going to be an opportunity to visit how we're inventorying, if there's opportunities for improvement there, this would be a good time to do that. I think our new dietary woman out there would be receptive to the conversation.
Let's put it on next month's agenda.
She mentioned it yesterday.
Oh, she did, okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give those 2 responses. Thank you.
Commissioner Kraft.
Yes. few years back, I'm not sure exactly how many, we put on some green roofs. How are they doing?
We put on a green roof at the health center.
Yes.
Above we call it the pipe room. And it's doing fine.
Is it expensive to maintain? Is it saving us heating costs?
It's not saving us heating costs because where it's located is, that room is hot, generated by the equipment anyway. Maintenance, environmental services maintains it, so I'm not sure how that, I think it's minimal maintenance. But it's worked. They are more expensive, of course, and they're probably harder to find a leak if one happens.
That's kind of what I thought. That's kind of why, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
We'd also, when we had the building where the Region 6 was, didn't we put a roof on there too? Encore and Region 6, just on the 42nd and Center.
No,
Garden.
Oh, Raiden Garden.
Yeah, it was ground level.
That was environmental services, that's right.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and as we've mentioned, we've put on deferred maintenance for many, many years, and it does build up and catch up, and it does bite you where you don't want to be bit. So, the HVAC unit at the 1215 facility, you know, it's only 50 years old. Why would we need to replace?
Well,
They just don't last like they used to, do they?
they don't, and the parts are getting harder to find.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle?
Yeah,
And
this,
Morgan.
this question is not about this budget, but yesterday we were at the Board of Trustees and saw that plan for the parking to kind of mimic what we already have there on the southeast side, I guess it would be. When I came out there, I noticed, I mean, there's really quite a berm on the west part of that parking. I'd hate to see that go, but I guess that's going to be ripped out and paved. Are you going to leave the berm in when you do that? I'm sorry to bring this up now, but I've got a chance, so I'm going to.
Well, they'll have to do some grading to get that parking lot the way it was designed. And we'll probably end up with a small wall, not a large wall,
Did you
with
say
some
wall?
landscape. Huh?
So did you say wall?
Well, when they're going to excavate, I forget how many yards of dirt to get it to the level of the existing parking lot.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be a little bit of a gap, but it can be, and we're going to talk with Kent about the landscape on that, and
Okay.
it'll be fine when it's.
I'll visit with you. I just hate to see that
Okay.
big berm with all the trees and bushes and everything go. But I suppose it has to if you're going to do parking, because otherwise they have to walk.
That part has to, and some of it is, I don't think in that great a shape, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
not.
We'll talk further, but I
Okay.
appreciate the information.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thanks for everything.
Wait a minute,
Thank
you
you.
got one more. Commissioner Morgan.
Hey, you both stay up there. First of all, I want to thank you for the good work you do and continue to do always, and I appreciate working with you. The roofs, we've gotten some 50-year warranties, and I know you're getting 10, 20-year. Keep looking at that because these roofing companies seem to be doing longer warranties, and I'd appreciate you checking that out. And also Doug Kagan had brought that to me too, but I know we just got one on a property on Leavenworth older, and the guy went to a 50-year warranty. Now, I don't know how they go to 50-year, but it'd be good to at least be working on 20 to 30 years for sure. So I
I think
wanted to
we're
mention that to
25,
you.
Yeah, right now we're 20, 25,
20,
and then
25.
we increase the membrane thickness
Okay?
a few mils for added protection, so we're trying to do the right thing of maintaining that.
And I know you're way more qualified than any of us, and you're constantly working at that sort of thing. The other thing I was going to suggest, Claire, is to you and Mark, Chairman and Vice Chairman, is I think our next hospital meeting will be the 21st, unless you're planning to be there on Labor Day without Boyle and I. But anyhow, if it is the 21st, I was thinking maybe we'd get there at 8:30 and do a little walk around with you.
Oh, I love it. I'd go for it.
So why don't you think about scheduling that, do an email early, and if it is the 21st, I've got it marked that maybe we
Let's
have
plan
a
on that.
meeting then and do 8:30
Great
or
idea.
8:15 sharp, and we walk around for a half hour and bring Gene along if you like.
Is this May 21st?
Yes. Is that,
I think it's a great idea, and if you guys would plan on that, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
okay? And then lastly, I want to mention something else. Even though Claire's been here a lot longer, I got here before Claire and took a break. But Al Hogan worked hard from the 70s and 80s, and I know he and Dan Lynch were just a real tag team that did an excellent job for our community and our structures and properties. I would like to get a resolution proposed for next week maybe, and we can all be on that, and thank Al, his family, for the great service, and recognize that great service that he did for the county. And I know, Jerry, you were close to Al and can do something about putting that together.
You know, that would be great. In fact, I did talk to his wife yesterday because of the board meeting and our involvement with the budget and presentation, and she understood. And then we talked a little bit about Al being Al, and I said, you know, we were curious about the schedule anyway. And she said, well, you know Al, he's not going to put it off any longer than. So it was like a day and a half of a notice. Today's the funeral. It's probably over with, but that's Al being Al. So it used to be said at some of these board meetings by commissioners and administrators that Al was very frugal, and he was. He really was.
Oh, yeah.
Not only with the county's money, but with Al's money. But he was a great guy, and he would be considered another mentor for me during my career with the county. And he really was. Well, thank you.
So let's put that together next week. You could let his wife know in case that we're doing something like that, and we'll get it out to her. And again, I want to thank you for the work that you put forth. And please feel free to come to this board at any time to update us or make some changes and get our input about it. And we thank you, and we'll just keep working and recognizing that some of these buildings are pretty old, and it is a challenge.
Thank you.
And they take a lot of wear and tear, especially our correction facility.
Got one more? Commissioner Boyle?
Well, you mentioned Al Hogan, and I was thinking the same thing. I mean, this is really ironic that the viewing part and all the rest of it starts at 9 o'clock, the same time the county board does. I thought this is unbelievable. This would happen. We all should be at St. Leo's, you know. Anyway, I thought of a story. Al was he was a wonderful teacher for me too. He was terrific. So was Dan Lynch. But when I was in the mayor's office, he was working on the riverfront. And we were visiting one time, and he said that he was having a lot of difficulty. There were railroad tracks down there. It's made him crazy. It drove right through the project. And I said, well, hell, I said, let me know. We'll condemn him or do something. He said, will you? I said, yeah, we will. So threaten him. And he did, and the railroad tracks were moved. I'm sorry, it's probably, I don't know who it was, one of our good neighbors, I'm sure. But anyway, they moved him. But there was a story, and I hesitate to tell it because it was when Al was dating someone else, and this was quite a few years ago. And it's a wonderful story. It's so incredible. Anyway, very quickly, what happened was Al brought some flowers to the woman he was dating, and she ran out to the car to get them. And she lived in an area where there was a ditch for water. There wasn't sidewalks and stuff. And so she ran over and she tripped in the ditch and broke her arm. And anyway, that was the end of it. I don't know. She decided that was a bad omen, so she bye-bye. Yeah, it was just terrific to me. Anyway, sorry to bring that up. I can't help it. That's what I thought. Al was a terrific guy. Ann and I were in Young Democrats, couldn't afford anything, and he always managed to get us into all these events for nothing.
Before, Ian, Joe, is there anything you want to ask or mention concerning this matter? No. Okay. Thank you again.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, keep it up.
Thank you, guys.
And then the other presentation we're going to have today is the County GIS Department and Mike Shonlow, not to be confused with the GIS section in the assessor's office. But with that, I will let Mike talk about his request.
Morning. Okay, good morning. Mike Shonlow, Douglas County GIS. Hopefully you're getting the handout here. I just have a couple of slides to talk about my proposed budget. A couple of comments. Basically, growth is really the reason I'm up here. Our department continues to grow in terms of demand for our services, especially from the city. The county departments, their demand for our services has been growing as well, so that's good. And what that leads to is we have some additional costs, mostly in software and server costs. Not huge, but they're there. And one of the other things we've included in our budget request this year is we originally had hoped to ask for a new employee, but we decided to scale that back and try to set up a partnership with UNO to set up an intern program to help us with some of the kind of entry-level tasks that we have in our department so we can have our staff focus on some of the higher-level projects. So let's go back to this one. So the first slide I want to show you is this slide in your handout called the expenditures, DCGIS expenditures. And hopefully I've kept this fairly simple. First column is the existing year. As you can see there, the middle column is our target for fiscal year 19. And the third column is what we have requested for fiscal year 19. And you can see there's a difference in our payroll that would be for this intern program that we'd like to fund. And then there's a small difference in our non-payroll expenditures. And those are explained down below. We have a couple of, a new piece of software that we're maintaining. It's an enterprise server level software that we're maintaining for the city and the county. That's added some cost. We also had a price increase on 2 pieces of software that we own that we've had to accommodate for. And that adds up to about $6,600 in increased software costs. Our server costs have risen again as demand for our services go up. We have to add some capacity there, and that's come up to about $4,000. So we have $11,000 worth of increases in our operating costs for software and servers. And then the intern position is about $15,600 if fully funded for the whole year. A key note on that, though, is we are working right now with the Omaha Fire Department. They are interested in getting some more help from us. They're not planning to hire someone internally there, so they'd like to basically contract with us for a little bit more services than we have been providing. And I think it's a good opportunity for us. And what that means is we've requested additional money from them in our request to the city departments. And as part of that money, we've asked for $16,000 from the fire department to help fund this intern program, which would result in them getting some staff down there to help them with. So that request for additional money for the intern we would only go forward with hiring that position if the fire department gets their funding approved. So it really is dependent on that. If the fire department doesn't get that additional amount approved, we will not move forward with the interns. So, so there is some of a revenue offset to that. The next slide is the revenue slide, an even simpler slide. And you can see the trend. The very first line is our MAPA grant revenue. Those are transportation planning funds that we receive as part of a grant from MAPA. Those continue to decrease as they have for the past 3-4 years. It's about 30% decrease expected this year. The city gets most of the benefit of that money because that money is tied to transportation planning work that we do for the city. So they have to compensate for that change, and you can see there it's about a $20,000 swing. MAPA's given us $20,000 less. The city's given us $20,000 more. So those amounts haven't really changed. We're getting about the same revenue overall from last year. The county's revenue has gone up a bit, mostly because we've been doing more work with county departments, especially the county health department and the county engineer's office this last year. And so that is the summary. There are a couple of slides there, I think, that show some charts of our time tracking reports. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mike, how do you get the revenue from the city? Do you bill, or what's your presentation? How do you do that?
Yes, so because the city plans their budget about the same time the county does,
Okay.
This time of year, we work up what our proposed budget is going to be. We look at how much time we spent with city departments on
Right.
specific city projects. We also look at what we call enterprise time that's split between the city and county. And then we make a request for those funds from the city to put into their next year's budget.
Okay.
And then we end up invoicing the city departments in January. That way we're in the same fiscal year 19 for the city, fiscal year 19 for the county.
Okay.
And then we invoice them in January, receive all those funds. That way it aligns the fiscal years for us a little bit.
Okay. I'm curious about the fire department's request. It seems like this is kind of outside the budgeting process for them. I mean, why didn't they include the Omaha Fire?
Well, a couple of reasons behind that. A couple of years ago, they had some staff changes in their management level that has led to a lot more work that we've been doing with them.
Okay.
And very good work. We've had a lot of big projects with them. So we now currently support some pretty significant GIS activities with the fire department. And they want more. They want to do more with it. And they don't want to hire a GIS professional in their office.
Good.
So we like that model.
Yeah.
We'd like to provide that staff to them. And what we're talking about is potentially one of our staff going down, working out of the fire headquarters office for fewer than 10 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
But they would be down there, be able to be in meetings with the fire staff, get to know some of the staff, hear firsthand requests. So a little bit more attention to detail with the fire department. So,
okay, I guess I'm curious about why this didn't come through the normal channels. I mean, there's other city departments that are using your services, and it seems unusual that this would stand out by itself and it wouldn't be included. Does the mayor not approve of this, what the OFD is doing, or what?
No, we just don't know, until the city's budget process is complete for the year, we don't know if it'll be approved.
Right.
The fire department is going to submit it as part of their budget.
Okay.
So in terms of the Omaha Fire Department's budget, it's planned to be in their budget request to the mayor. A lot of other city departments have GIS staff that they have hired.
Yeah.
And
really?
This is one of them that has not. So what we are hoping to do here is set up a model where departments who want to have GIS staffing but don't necessarily have the background to manage that GIS staff and make sure they have the proper training and skills that will be needed for what they want to do with the technology can come to our department to have us provide some of those staffing services.
But I'm curious what city departments had GIS staff?
Public Works is the biggest. I believe right now they have either 10 or 11 GIS staff people.
You're kidding, wow.
The Planning Department has 3 full-time GIS people. Parks Department has 1. And we work with all of those folks quite a bit.
Wow.
But the Public Works Department's been the one that's grown.
How many do they have?
10 or 11, I have to go
Okay.
look at my records.
Surprised. Okay, well, my experience with you has been really incredible. The information I've asked for, you've delivered way beyond what I expected. So I really appreciate your effort and your talent and your skills.
Thank you.
And I think you're running a great shop. I hope you can get this fire department thing handled too. That sounds important to me.
I think
Thank
it's
you.
a good opportunity.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mike. Keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, going back to the, what the fire department wants you to provide in additional services. If they say, no, we're not going to give you the 16,000, we don't hire the intern. But what about the service? We just don't do it?
No, the 16,000 is really directly tied to that ability to hire that intern. The fire department, our request to the fire department is for more than 16. It's actually for, I think it's in the neighborhood of 35,000, because there are still costs that they need to pay us for. Some of the enterprise costs, our servers, our databases, things that we manage, and some of the work that we've actually already done with the fire department. So they would either way be paying us a portion of that to cover what they've already done, or what work we've already done with them. The 16,000 is a new cost that would strictly be related to this new staffing model that we're trying to get set up.
But it's because they asked for additional services, is the way I understood what you said.
Yes.
So if they don't give you the 16,000, will we be providing that additional service?
We would still be providing services to the fire department?
No, the additional service.
No.
No, we would not
We would
provide
not.
them. How might that affect our 911 operation?
No direct impact on 911, because our 911, the work that we do for 911 is separate. So we maintain geographic data that's used in the 911 system, and that's totally separate.
Okay, but it won't, so it won't affect 911's response time, it won't affect their ability to reach somebody in a area of unknown density or something, location?
Well, I don't know if I can directly answer that, but I can say some of the work that the fire department wants to do with us would, in theory, enhance their ability to provide better services.
That's where I was going, yes, okay, thank you. Now, our GIS system is also used by other entities, MUD and OPPD, correct?
Not directly. We have a good relationship with MUD in that we share some of our data with them, they share some of their data with us. We don't have much of a relationship with OPPD because most of their data is not managed in a GIS system, it's more of a CAD system.
Okay. Are there any other entities that might be willing to grant some funding? Because I realize the service is paid for by the county and it's open to the public and anybody's supposed to be able to use it. But MUD, I'm sure, uses it a lot.
They do?
I'm sure OPPD uses it.
I would suspect at least some people at
And
OPPD do.
OPS, Omaha Public Schools, use it.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any way that you can foresee where they could contribute even small amounts to help us enhance our services?
I don't think there's a high likelihood of getting money from some of those entities, although we do have other types of partnerships. So I'll take OPS as an example. Recently, we've been meeting with OPS and the police department on improving the school's information that the police department has access to, that we have in our city county database, and that 911 has access to. For example, a 911 call that came in where an incident was occurring somewhere that's near a school. The information that we're going to be adding to this database will now allow a dispatcher at 911 to provide even more detailed school information to an officer on the scene so they could possibly notify that school that they need to go into a lockdown, things like that. So there's kind of a trade of information between OPS and us. They use some of the information that we maintain, and we get more information back. It's not necessarily a funding component, but there's more of a partnership.
You are talking about getting an intern from someplace to work for part-time for implementing additional services.
Mm-hmm.
Could you utilize student interns, like from the Omaha Public Schools or any of the school systems?
Not from K through 12. We would be looking for college level because they'll have a little bit more experience and training and background in GIS. So our hope is to establish a partnership with UNO's geography department so we can rotate students through an intern program, maybe 3 or 4 months at a time, give them valuable experience, help us provide some of the day-to-day tasks that we need some help with, and kind of keep that program going as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Good. Mike, let me explain to me your model for service, because for some reason I don't know why I didn't think the county departments were being charged. Is it like a .com model?
No, so our services today work a couple ways. We have a certain portion of our budget that we tag as enterprise level costs. Those costs are shared by city and county 50-50. That's the model that's in place right now with our interlocal agreement. The rest of the time that we spend is time that we spend specifically with city departments or with county departments on projects for that department. So we track all that time. So we can, at the end of the year, quantify how many hours we spent with the health department versus the engineer's office or public works, whatever. And then we take that information using those percentages and look at our proposed expenditures budget, and then we build a request to the city. And when we build our request to the city, we include our fringe benefit costs. We include all the costs that the county has for running our department. So the money we get from the city does also cover things like fringe benefits. They're not listed in our budget request here, but our total cost of operating is part of the model that we use to build the city. This new staffing model would be a little different in that what we would be doing here is...
So let me just make sure. So
sure.
The enterprise services are based on, it sounds like you're saying enterprise services are based on the previous services the year before. That cost for the upcoming year are based on like a year before cost.
All the billing is in arrears, you're right. So the money that we're asking for the city to pay us right now is for time that we spent with them over the past year.
Okay.
It's March 1st to February 28th.
So when you said you build the health department for a project, I guess you got that enterprise core, but is it something that classifies as something outside? What classifies as outside the scope of enterprise services?
If it's a project that's specifically for the health department. So for example, we've been working with the health department on one program for their lead dust program.
Okay.
And that's very specific to the health department. So we tag those hours as health department.
Okay. So you got enterprise and then specific projects pay as it is, and this new staffing model is something you're playing through for additional things.
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind this new staffing model is that what we don't want to see is a trend that we think is happening on the city side where a lot of GIS staff has been hired, yet there's no organizational structure for these people to advance. They're all going to be topped out soon.
Okay.
With a bigger structure, if we're managing some of that GIS staff, that's going to provide better opportunities for the employees to be cross-trained, to have paths for advancement, but it's also going to protect departments who use our services because they're not going to be so reliant on one person who knows the GIS in their department. And typically, because these are technical, professional positions, it's a big loss when one of those people leaves the department. And I think Public Works had one of those situations this past year where one of their people who'd been with them a long time left, and there was a lot of institutional knowledge that went with that person. And so we're trying to set up a model that would help protect city and county departments from that kind of thing.
Commissioner Morgan.
If Mike wants to go ahead, go ahead. Did you have?
I was just going to ask, thank you. So would an ideal world be that all the GIS would be in Douglas County? Or someplace, one place?
I think it would be helpful. Let me elaborate on that. I would like to see it all under one umbrella,
right?
But not housed in one department.
Okay.
So
okay.
What that means is, I'd like the model where the GIS staff out there, whether it's in a county department or a city department, would work under one department. That way they can get the right training, they can have the right access to resources. We can make sure when people are hired, they have the right skill sets.
Okay.
But that those people sometimes have to work in those departments, be at those offices, because that's the way they learn the business operation.
Okay.
It's hard for me to have an employee on the 4th floor here know exactly what the needs are of an office that's 5 miles away. They need to be there talking with those people in day to day.
Have you written up this plan?
I have a plan drafted.
Okay.
That is talks about this.
All
So
right.
I have it. It's in draft form.
Well, I think yesterday I had lunch with Marty Bielik, the mayor's chief of staff. We've known each other for years, and I talked to him about some of the things that I think we need to do, particularly the difficulty we're going to have with the detox center. The clock is ticking, and he was very interested and wants to get the police chief involved, which would be helpful. This is the sort of thing that we can talk about informally, and no big, powwow necessarily. Just see, are they interested? And so if you prepare that, I mean, I think some of us, and I'd be glad to talk to Marty about it and eventually get it to the mayor and see what she thinks. I think it's a good idea, and I like your approach too, because it's not hostile takeover, that sort of thing. And
right, not at all.
Right. Okay, well, I like it. So if you'd show it to us, I think it'd be helpful, and we can decide what we think we should do. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Morgan.
PJ.
Mike, quick question. Is there anything we can do? I know the grants have been going down. Is there anything we can do to help see that they're not going down, that we work in some positive way with some of our staff or whatever to increase those grants or get them back to where they were?
Well, I think the MAPA grant specifically, which has been our only grant revenue over the years, has changed, especially with the change in personnel at MAPA. They've kind of reprioritized how they use some of this grant money, and I know the grant money, the pot of money has changed as well from the Federal Highway Administration. I'm not sure how much that will change unless we align projects that we're working on specifically with transportation planning projects that MAPA has planned. There's not a lot of grant money out there for just supporting general GIS operations. Sometimes you can find grant money for specific projects. For example, some of the work we're doing at the health department, there are opportunities potentially to find grants for that kind of work because it's very specific. Other than that, right now we're just in a mode where we try to make it as fair and equitable as possible for departments who use our services pay for their fair share. And I think we've been accomplishing that to date. But
think about it for a while, and if it would help for us to maybe Mary Ann's one of the people that works with MAPA more, maybe Commissioner Boyle, it might be good, and I'd go with them gladly, and yourself, to go out to MAPA and maybe talk to them about it and their priorities and what we might do. And if that's Claire, and I apologize, then I'd want Claire to lead the way, and maybe we go out there. I thought Mary Ann.
I can get you answers to your questions of where the funding has gone. I'll get you any information you would like.
Yeah, if we can restore some of that, and Mike does, as others have said, does a really good job and is very responsible. But if we could, it'd be helpful.
Okay. I'll
and
at
I
least get you.
Apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, I've been on it for. There was a 1 year gap. Other than that, I've been on it for about 25 years, and I'd be happy to get you an answer, whatever I can do to accommodate.
Whatever you think, then.
Okay.
We'll talk later too.
All right.
Thanks. Sorry.
No, quite all right. Commissioner Boyle.
I have one other question. I'm curious about the billing I get this microphone stand, there we go. Maybe you're running it. I was turning it off and you're turning it on, okay, sorry. Anyway, do you bill the city departments directly from
I
your?
do.
Okay, and you don't send them to the city of Omaha County or anybody like that? You send it to the Public Works or somebody?
Right, I send to 5 departments: Parks, Police, Public Works, Planning, and Fire.
Okay, Parks, OPD, Police, Fire, OFD. Who else now?
Planning,
Okay,
Public Works, Police, Fire.
Okay,
and
great.
Parks.
okay, that's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Seeing none, I think you're good.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
So that's the presentations for today, and then we have about, in total, 8 or 9 departments who are coming in with requests above targets. The other departments are larger departments, so their issues are all at least in 6 figures. And so over the next 4 or 5 meetings, we'll be hearing from those different groups, usually, 1 or 2 of them per meeting.
Okay, and Commissioner Rogers, maybe when we know that we have those scheduled because of the timing issue, we can put those high on the list and schedule them so it's appropriate and go right here. That'd be great.
So
Mark some of those down.
tell them if they, if they need to get out, we'll move them up after the board, move them up early in the agenda.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Anything else? Commissioner Moore?
I've got a question. There's some of the committees are having hearings. I've seen that on Department of Administrative Services. I think have a couple of coming up. And so when they, when the chair of that committee, Mr. Kavanaugh, when he goes through it and everything and does all the questioning and so forth, I mean, of course, commissioners can attend and do the same thing. Is there then a report of some sort? I guess it'd be through the minutes of the meeting that would come to the county board so we could see things.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, we can always make the request that any handouts that are given can be given to all the board members.
Okay. I think it'd be important. I mean, I think it's a good method to still have a public hearing of sorts. So anyway, that'd be great, because I'm interested what happens.
Yeah, Dan Ash County Clerk I'll make sure that happens.
Okay.
So,
And if you can tell Constance, the minutes are really important too.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. You done? TJ?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to item G, Human Resources. Item 1 is the weekly personnel report from Civil Service. And I'd like to ask the board, I know this is there for reading if you want to get it. Would you all have objection to moving that to consent agenda unless you want to pull something specific out for the future?
What's this again? I'm not following.
Item 1 under G. I'm thinking about that. If you all don't have any angst, I'll do that. And if you need to pull out item 1, the weekly personnel report, because it's something you all want to see, but we haven't commented on it, so I'm thinking about moving it to consent agenda.
Very good idea.
It's okay. I'm always curious. I mean, as long as we can still open it and look to see, but there's a
Yeah.
whole list of, and there's a lot of things in there that really trigger additional expense. When, if we go to it now, for example, there's requests for job studies, and those always trigger. They're not to reduce salaries. I remember years ago there was an office that asked for a job study. It came back and said you should be paid less, and of course that was never mind.
No, it will still be accessible. It will just
Okay,
go
good.
up earlier.
Yeah,
and,
that's fine.
Unless something specific drives you, and you can pull it.
Okay, that's fine.
So next, we'll start putting that there. Okay, legislative issues, there are none pressing, but as you know, they have one official day left, which is Wednesday, to see what happens. Anything you want to add on that? Okay, with that, we do have a reason for executive session to handle litigation, labor negotiations, and real estate.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Wolf.
I want to mention that there's I saw it on a bulletin board, there's a lunch here in the building, and it's $5 for a pulled pork sandwich and chips and soda. I think
Today?
it's a pretty good deal. Yeah, I don't know where, I'll find out, but it's here in the building. I don't smell anything cooking, but.
Hopefully we'll be done enough time to go get it. So with that, is there a motion to go into executive session
So
for litigation?
moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Boyle. Please vote.
Vote yes.
Commissioner Boyle can spend his time looking for the pulled pork sandwich.
Yeah, well, it's some kind of a donation for somebody. It sounds pretty, and it looks pretty good.
Thank you.
Motion passes, all present voted yes.
And again, we're going into executive session for litigation, labor negotiations, and real estate.
I have my motion and my second. I just need votes. I have one vote, or actually two. I have two votes. He did. All right. Motion passes. All commissioners present voting yes. And are you a yes, Commissioner Kraft? He's a yes? Okay.
She's coming in this afternoon. I talked to her this morning and she's ill.